Before we begin, take a deep breath. What you're about to see is not just a tragedy. It's a story about courage, compassion, and the thin line that separates humanity from nature's raw power. Stay with us until the very end, because this story will change the way you see marine life forever. And remember, if stories like this move you, if you believe in truth, awareness, and the need to respect nature, subscribe now and turn on notifications. It's free, and it helps us keep telling stories that matter. Also, don't forget to like this video and share it, because one share can save a life. Before it became the scene of one of the most haunting tragedies in marine history, Ocean Crown was a dream come true. A place built on wonder, where the deep blue met human imagination. For over 2 decades, Ocean Crown Marine Park was known as the Kingdom of Giants, a sanctuary where people could look into the eyes of creatures older, wiser, and infinitely more powerful than themselves, and feel a sense of awe few words could describe. Families came here to escape reality. Children pressed their hands against the glass, whispering, "Wow," as a killer whale drifted past like a living shadow. Couples took photos beneath the Ocean Crown arch, believing they were witnessing harmony between man and nature. But beneath the laughter, beneath the applause, something deeper pulsed through this place. The illusion that nature could be controlled. And among those faces was one that would change the park's history forever. Jessica Monroe. Jessica wasn't just another trainer chasing fame or thrill. She was a believer, a woman who saw life, emotion, and intelligence in the eyes of every animal she met. While others saw performance, Jessica saw partnership. While others followed protocols, Jessica followed her heart. She joined Ocean Crown at just 21, fresh out of marine biology school, brimming with hope and innocence. To her, it wasn't a job. It was a calling. She once wrote in her journal, "If I can make one person fall in love with these animals the way I have, maybe they'll protect the ocean too." Those who knew her say she radiated a calm that even the most temperamental orca could feel. Her colleagues called her the whale whisperer. With just a glance, just a tone of voice, she could bring peace to creatures weighing 6 tons, predators that could crush steel with a flick of their tails. But behind those smiles was a world built on tension. Every performance, every perfect leap was balanced on an invisible line between trust and danger. No matter how close the bond, one truth remained unspoken. These were not domesticated animals. They were wild beings, confined, restless, and unpredictable. Ocean Crown had its legends, tales whispered among trainers late at night, of sudden lunges, of unexplained outbursts, of eyes that changed from friendly to fierce in a heartbeat. But Jessica, ever hopeful, dismissed them. To her, those stories were misunderstandings, the result of fear, not fact. She believed love could conquer instinct. She believed patience could erase aggression. She believed she could understand what no one else could. Her favorite among the whales was Titan, Ocean Crown's largest and most celebrated performer. 22 feet of muscle, intelligence, and mystery. To Jessica, he was majestic, misunderstood, even gentle. Their bond seemed magical, unbreakable. Crowds would cheer at their every performance, calling them the perfect team. But there was something in Titan's eyes that few noticed. A sadness, a stillness, a quiet rage that spoke of a world lost. He had been captured young, torn from his pod, and forced into a world of flashing lights and cheering crowds. And though Jessica believed she had tamed him with love, she was only standing in the calm before the storm. Because what no one, not Jessica, not her colleagues, not the thousands who adored her, could predict was that her love for these magnificent creatures would one day lead her to a horrifying end. In the heart of Ocean Crown's shimmering pool, there was one creature who ruled above all others: Titan, a 22-foot killer whale weighing nearly 12,000 pounds. Impossibly intelligent, impressively strong, and dangerously unpredictable. To most trainers, Titan was a challenge, a ticking clock that demanded constant respect and distance. But to Jessica Monroe, he was something different, something more. She called him her gentle giant A creature who, in her eyes, didn't represent danger, but trust. Jessica spent more time with Titan than anyone else at Ocean Crown. Hours before sunrise, long after closing, she'd be there, sitting at the edge of the tank, whispering softly to the dark water. Sometimes she'd sing to him. Sometimes she'd just sit in silence, watching his shadow glide beneath the surface. Colleagues would joke that Jessica spoke whale language, but in truth, she wasn't talking to Titan. She was trying to understand him. What Jessica saw in Titan wasn't an apex predator. She saw a soul, trapped in a tank too small for its dreams. A wild being robbed of freedom, yearning for connection. Their bond became legendary. Audiences would gasp as Jessica dove into the water beside him, fearlessly swimming alongside his massive body. Every move was choreographed perfection, a dance between woman and whale. They trusted each other so completely that Jessica began to push limits others refused to cross. She swam closer, stayed longer, broke safety protocols quietly, believing love was enough. She believed Titan knew her, not as a trainer, not as a human, but as a friend. And maybe, for a time, he did. But even the calmest waters can hide powerful undercurrents. Some of the older trainers at Ocean Crown had seen it before. The warning signs that too many chose to ignore. Titan's behavior would shift unpredictably. Some days, he was gentle as a child. Other days, he refused to follow commands, slapping the water violently with his tail. There were moments, brief, chilling flashes, where his massive head would rise just inches from the platform, eyes unblinking, fixed on Jessica in complete silence. To most, those were warnings. To Jessica, they were moments of understanding, a language only she could hear. Her colleagues grew uneasy. They whispered during staff meetings, "He's too big, too strong." One day, it won't end well. Jessica's too close. She forgets what he really is. But Jessica brushed it off with a smile. "Titan's misunderstood," she'd say. "He's not dangerous. He's emotional. Just like us." But Titan wasn't just like us. He was a creature born of the open ocean, of endless horizons, deep currents, and a social world beyond human comprehension. Inside that tank, he was a prisoner. Every day, he circled the same concrete walls. Every night, he listened to his own sonar bounce back at him in a cage of echoes. Psychologists studying orcas in captivity often compare their condition to human insanity. Isolation, depression, aggression born of confinement. And while Jessica believed she was healing Titan's pain with love, she was unknowingly standing on a fault line, ready to split. Their shows became the park's centerpiece, the Ocean Crown experience. Every jump, every spin, every splash was a symbol of trust. Jessica's smile was confidence, but beneath it was pressure. Pressure to perform. Pressure to prove that man and beast could truly coexist. Each routine was a dance with fate. And though everything looked perfect, trainers backstage felt the tension rise. They noticed Titan's hesitation during certain cues, the flick of his tail before a dive, the delay before surfacing. Tiny moments, gone unnoticed by the crowd, but terrifying to those who knew what they meant. Something inside Titan was changing. Jessica believed love could rewrite nature's laws. She believed trust could conquer instinct. But nature has its own rules, ancient, unyielding, and unforgiving. And as Jessica stood at the edge of that tank, hand resting gently on Titan's massive head, she had no idea that the bond she cherished most would soon become the reason for her death. Trust is powerful, but misplaced trust can be deadly. March 18th, a warm, bright afternoon, the kind of day that promised laughter, applause, and wonder. For Ocean Crown Marine Park, it was just another performance, another chance to thrill families, to make children gasp, to keep the illusion alive that man and nature could truly dance as one. But for Jessica Monroe, it was more than just a show. It was a promise, a chance to prove that her bond with Titan was unbreakable. Jessica arrived early that morning, as she always did. Witnesses said she was calm, focused, humming softly to herself as she slipped into her wetsuit. To her, this wasn't work. It was a performance of love. Titan, her 22-foot partner, waited beneath the surface, motionless, almost meditative. Before the gates opened, she leaned over the tank, whispered his name, and gave 3 gentle taps on the water. He responded with a slow, graceful circle, a silent acknowledgement. It was their ritual, their sign of trust. By 2 p.m., the stands were packed. Every seat was filled, parents holding ice cream, cameras flashing, children waving at the water's surface. The air buzzed with excitement. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ocean Crown Experience." Jessica stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, that familiar, confident smile lighting up her face. She looked alive, radiant, unaware that the next few minutes would define her legacy forever. Titan made his entrance like a king returning to his throne. The crowd gasped as his massive tail slammed the water, sending waves crashing over the first few rows. Jessica laughed and waved to the soaked spectators. Every motion between her and Titan seemed effortless, rehearsed, precise, flawless. The music built as Jessica gave her first command. Titan responded instantly, diving deep, spinning, and bursting through the surface with perfect timing. Water sprayed high into the air as the crowd erupted in applause. For 15 minutes, everything went perfectly. Jessica's voice guided Titan like a conductor leading a symphony. Every splash, every trick, every movement, a performance of beauty and trust. Then came the moment that would change everything. The next segment was called The Connection. It was Jessica's favorite, a quiet, intimate moment between trainer and whale. No music, no tricks, just trust. Jessica knelt beside the pool, reached out her hand, and whispered the cue only Titan knew. He rose slowly, head emerging from the water, his massive eye meeting hers. The crowd went silent, captivated by the intimacy of the moment. She smiled. He hovered. For a second, it looked perfect, pure harmony. But then, something changed. Witnesses later said Titan's behavior shifted almost imperceptibly. His breathing quickened. His body stiffened. Jessica didn't notice. Or maybe she refused to believe what she saw. She tapped the water again, smiling, giving a signal for his next dive. But Titan didn't move. He just stared. Trainers backstage noticed it immediately. One whispered into the radio, He's off. Something's not right. Seconds felt like hours. Jessica laughed lightly, trying to keep the crowd at ease. Looks like Titan's being a little stubborn today. The audience chuckled, but under the surface, Titan's tail began to twitch. Then, the pool erupted. Titan lunged upward with terrifying speed. Jessica barely had time to react before he clamped his jaws around her arm and yanked her into the water. At first, some thought it was part of the show, an unscripted stunt. But the laughter died within seconds. Beneath the surface, the blue water turned into a storm of bubbles and thrashing motion. Jessica tried to resurface, but Titan dragged her deeper, spinning violently. On the surface, trainers screamed into radios. "Emergency! Get the nets!" Crowds gasped. Some children began crying. Others sat frozen, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Titan reappeared briefly, Jessica still in his grip. Her hand broke the surface, reaching out, then disappeared again. For several horrifying minutes, chaos reigned. Staff threw ropes, banged on gates, shouted commands. But Titan refused to release her. Every attempt to calm him failed. He dove deeper, dragging her further away from help. Witnesses said the water went eerily still. And then, slowly, Titan surfaced, alone. In that moment, the illusion shattered. The laughter, the applause, the belief that humans could tame nature, gone. All that remained was the sound of sirens and the weight of realization that love and trust, no matter how deep, are powerless against nature's true instinct. The water was calm, too calm. Jessica had just finished the cue. Her voice echoed across the arena as she reached out with the familiar signal of trust. Titan hovered beneath her, motionless, a shadow wrapped in silence. For a heartbeat, trainer and whale stared at one another, two beings from different worlds, connected by years of routine and faith. Then, everything changed. Without warning, the surface exploded into chaos. A wall of water shot skyward as Titan lunged upward with breathtaking force. Spectators flinched, some cheering instinctively, thinking it was part of the act, until they saw Jessica vanish. The cheers turned to gasps. Trainers on the platform froze for a second that felt like eternity. Then the shouting began, radios crackling, emergency whistles piercing the air. Below the surface, the world was soundless except for the rush of water and the beating of hearts. Jessica struggled to regain control, her training instincts guiding every movement. But Titan's strength dwarfed hers. She tried the release signal, 3 rapid taps on his side, but he didn't respond. He dove deeper, twisting, creating a vortex of bubbles that blurred the line between up and down. Every second felt like an hour. The crowd didn't know whether to run or pray. Children clung to their parents. Cameras dropped. Phones recorded trembling images of a dream collapsing into horror. The staff scrambled, the safety team deploying nets, others throwing signal buoys, calling Titan's name again and again. But the massive Orca moved with deliberate force, refusing every command, every plea. From above, all they could see was turbulence, violent, circular, unrelenting. Trainers banged metal gates, clapped, shouted feeding cues, desperate to draw his attention. Nothing worked. 10 minutes. That's how long witnesses say the struggle lasted. 10 minutes of disbelief, panic, and helplessness, each one stretching endlessly between hope and horror. Finally, Titan surfaced near the center of the pool, motionless once more. The crowd had been evacuated. Sirens blared beyond the gates. Rescue divers entered the water cautiously, their faces pale under the lights. What they found would end Ocean Crown's illusion forever. The bond that had mesmerized millions, the trust, the beauty, the unspoken connection, was gone. In its place stood a truth humanity had tried for decades to ignore. Nature does not perform on command. That night, reporters called it an accident. Others called it a betrayal. But those who understood the ocean saw it differently. They saw a captive predator pushed beyond its limits, a creature whose instincts had finally broken through the walls of control. And for Jessica Monroe, the woman who believed love could conquer nature, those instincts became her final lesson. Within hours, the story spread across the globe. What began as a performance meant to inspire had become a worldwide reckoning. News anchors repeated the same words. Tragedy at Ocean Crown. Trainer loses her life in killer whale attack. Investigation underway. But beneath the polished reports and official statements, a deeper story was unfolding. One that Ocean Crown never wanted the world to hear. The park shut its doors, citing safety concerns. Candlelight vigils appeared overnight. People holding posters of Jessica, smiling beside Titan. Children left plush whales by the gate. Parents whispered to reporters, "How could this happen?" Inside Ocean Crown's offices, panic reigned. Executives gathered in conference rooms, drafting statements, rehearsing press releases. Their message was simple. It was an accident, unforeseeable, unpredictable. But behind those closed doors, others knew better. Within days, former trainers began to speak out. They told stories of Titan's frustration, his aggression, his unpredictable moods. Incidents where he ignored cues, where his eyes seemed to change. Moments brushed off as training fatigue. Internal logs, never meant for public eyes, later revealed a chilling pattern. Titan had been involved in 2 previous incidents, both serious enough to raise red flags, yet both silenced by management. Reports were rewritten. Witnesses were warned. Because for Ocean Crown, the show had to go on. The illusion of harmony was too profitable to lose. Jessica trusted the system that trained her. She believed in its promise, that through patience, discipline, and love, humans could tame nature's fiercest forces. But the truth was far darker. Titan was not a performer. He was an apex predator, confined in a tank the size of his instincts' prison. Scientists had warned for decades that orcas in captivity suffer severe psychological distress. Their sonar, built to echo through vast oceans, bounces endlessly off concrete walls. Their social structures collapse. Their minds twist under isolation. And when the breaking point comes, it comes suddenly, violently, and without warning. In the months that followed, investigations swirled. Government officials demanded transparency. Animal rights groups protested outside the park, chanting Jessica's name. But Ocean Crown's lawyers moved swiftly, settling cases, sealing documents, silencing insiders. They called it an accident. They called it unforeseeable. But the truth was simpler and far more damning. This wasn't a tragedy of chance. It was the product of arrogance, of believing we could cage nature and expect it to obey. Jessica Monroe's death was not an accident. It was a tragedy waiting to happen. And in the silent hours after the headlines faded, one truth remained: that love alone cannot rewrite the laws of nature, no matter how much we wish it could. Jessica Monroe's story isn't just about a trainer and a whale. It's about us, humanity, and the line we keep trying to cross between wonder and control. For decades, we have stood at the edge of the ocean, mesmerized by its beauty, yet desperate to own it. We capture what should be free. We confine what should roam. We call it education, entertainment, research. But the truth is that we're trying to master something we were meant to respect. Jessica believed in connection. She believed that love could bridge the gap between species, that trust could overcome instinct. And for a time, it seemed true. Her smile, her voice, her presence brought magic to millions. But nature is not a performance. It does not bow, it does not applaud, and it does not forget what it is. Out here, in the open sea, the killer whale is not a monster. It is a mother, a hunter, a guardian of its pod, a creature that navigates the oceans with intelligence and grace. But inside a tank, it becomes a shadow of itself. The same intelligence that inspires awe turns inward, into frustration, confusion, rage. Titan was not evil. He was broken, a soul designed for the deep, trapped behind walls built by human pride. If Jessica could speak today, she would not call for revenge. She would not want Titan punished. She would want us to understand and to change. She would remind us that the ocean is not ours to conquer, that freedom is not a gift we give to nature, it is a right that belongs to it, and that true connection does not come from control, but from coexistence. Every generation has its wake-up call. Jessica Monroe's was written in the water. Her legacy isn't the tragedy that ended her life. It's the truth that her story revealed. That the beauty we admire in wild creatures cannot survive behind glass. We can learn. We can evolve. We can honor her memory not with silence, but with action. By ending the cycle of captivity and teaching our children that respect is the highest form of love. Jessica's spirit lives here, in the rhythm of the waves, in the songs of the whales that still roam free, in every heart that refuses to turn pain into spectacle. Because in the end, her story was never just about death. It was about awakening. A reminder that humanity's greatest lesson often comes from the very world we try to control. Jessica Monroe's legacy should remind us all that love without understanding can lead to heartbreak, and that nature, no matter how familiar, always deserves respect. Her story is not just a tragedy. It's a lesson, a mirror reflecting what happens when human ambition forgets humility, when wonder turns into ownership, when connection turns into control. If this story moved you, if it made you think, feel, or reflect, don't let it fade away. Help us keep her message alive. Subscribe, not just to follow a channel, but to become part of a community that values truth, awareness, and respect for life. Each story here reveals something deeper about the bond between humans and nature. And subscribing means you stand for change, compassion, and consciousness. Like to honor Jessica's courage, a woman who gave her life believing in the beauty of connection. Every like tells the world that her story mattered, that her voice, though silenced, still echoes through every wave that touches the shore. Share this video, because awareness begins with a single story. Let Jessica's legacy reach beyond this screen, into classrooms, conversations, and hearts that still believe humanity can do better. Share it to remind others what she learned too late, that the sea is not ours to control, it is ours to respect. For Jessica Monroe, 1987 to 2023, may her story forever remind us that love for nature means letting it live free.